The wrought iron gate opened slowly, as if hesitant to reveal what lay behind it. Cecilia Olive took a deep breath, clutching the strap of her worn backpack as she gazed at the imposing mansion that stood at the top of the hill. The driver who had brought her from central London to the upscale neighbourhood of Kensington remained silent, merely indicating with a gesture that she should follow the polished stone path that wound through the impeccably maintained gardens. "You can do this," she murmured to herself, adjusting the simple bun that held her brown hair. It wasn't her first time working as a nanny, but she had never entered a place as imposing as Albrook Manor, known throughout London's high society. The sound of Cecilia's heels echoed along the path as she observed the marble statues distributed throughout the garden, all seemingly following her steps with gazes frozen in time. Exotic flowers exuded perfumes that mingled in the sunny autumn morning air. Before she could ring the doorbell, the main door opened. A tall woman, approximately 30 years old, with perfectly straightened blonde hair and flawless makeup, appeared wearing a white dress that seemed to have come straight out of a fashion magazine. "You must be the new nanny." Her voice was cold, almost metallic. It wasn't a question, but a statement. "I'm Bianca Ferrer, Mr. Albrook's fiancée. Come in." Cecilia nodded, following Bianca into the mansion. The interior was even more impressive than the facade. Italian marble flooring, artworks worth fortunes hanging on the walls, furniture that looked as if it had never been used. "Mr. Henry expects absolute punctuality and discretion," Bianca continued as they walked down a long corridor. "Little Helen needs to follow a strict routine. Any changes must be communicated to me immediately." "I understand," Cecilia replied, trying to maintain her composure as she absorbed every detail around her. "I have experience with babies, and I'm very organized." Bianca stopped abruptly, turning to scrutinize Cecilia from head to toe. Her green eyes scanned every inch of the nanny, like a scanner searching for flaws. "I hope you're better than the previous ones. None lasted more than 2 weeks." A cold smile appeared on her perfectly outlined cherry-red lips. "Helen is special, and she requires special care." Before Cecilia could reply, a door at the end of the corridor opened, and a man of approximately 40 years appeared. Henry Albrook exuded power in every gesture, dressed in a tailor-made suit with greying hair at his temples, contrasting with the still predominant black, and penetrating brown eyes that seemed capable of reading thoughts. "Ah, you've arrived." His voice was deep and authoritative. He approached, extending his hand. "I'm Henry Albrook. I hope Bianca has already explained the basic rules." Cecilia shook his hand, noticing the golden wedding band on his finger. "Yes, sir, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Cecilia Olive. Your documents and references have been thoroughly checked," he said, indicating for them to follow him. "I need someone trustworthy to look after Helen while I'm working. Ever since my wife—" He paused, as if the words had caught in his throat. "Since the incident, I've been extremely cautious." Bianca placed her hand on Henry's shoulder in a gesture that seemed more calculated than genuine. "Darling, you don't need to talk about that now." They arrived at a white door decorated with small hand-painted clouds. Henry opened it slowly, revealing a nursery fit for a fairy tale. Pastel-toned walls, delicate mobiles hanging from the ceiling, a nursing armchair by the window that offered a view of the gardens. In the center of the room, a carved wooden crib cradled a tiny figure. Cecilia approached cautiously, feeling her heart quicken as she saw the sleeping baby's round face and small clenched fists. "This is Helen," Henry murmured, with a tenderness he hadn't shown until then. "She's 8 months old." Cecilia observed the child with professional attention, but also with an instant affection she couldn't explain. Helen had fair, delicate skin, long eyelashes, and a small, almost imperceptible birthmark near her right temple. "She's beautiful," Cecilia said sincerely. "All instructions are in this folder," Bianca interrupted, handing over a thick binder with colored tabs. "Feeding times, bath, preventive medication, sleep, everything must be followed strictly. The bottles already come prepared by our nutritionist. You just need to warm them at the correct time." Cecilia quickly flipped through the binder, impressed by the level of detail. "I see, and who prepared this protocol?" I did, Bianca replied, lifting her chin. I researched the best methods of infant care. Helen deserves only the best. Henry consulted the gold watch on his wrist. I need to go. I have an important meeting at the company. Cecilia, your room is at the end of this corridor next to the nursery. Bianca will show you everything before she leaves for her appointment. He leaned over the crib, gently touching his daughter's forehead with his lips. For an instant, his face transformed, all hardness disappearing. Then he straightened up, adjusted his tie, and became the imposing businessman once more. Take good care of her, he said to Cecilia before leaving. When they were alone with the baby, Bianca subtly changed. Her gaze towards Helen seemed distant, almost clinical. I'll show you the rest of the house. The service staff already knows you've arrived. Don't interact with them much beyond what's necessary, especially with Jaron, the gardener. He's peculiar. As they proceeded to see the rest of the property, Cecilia noticed something strange in the nursery. The clock on the wall was 10 minutes ahead of hers. It seemed an insignificant detail, but years of working with children had sharpened her sense of observation. During the tour of the mansion, Bianca presented the impeccable kitchen where Mrs. Hilda, the middle-aged housekeeper with a stern face, was preparing lunch. In the garden, a thin man with sun-bronzed skin worked in silence among the rows. Bushes. He looked up as they passed, and Cecilia felt a shiver as she noticed his intense gaze. That's Jaron, Bianca whispered. As I said, avoid unnecessary conversations. Back in the nursery, Helen had woken up. Her little brown eyes watched Cecilia with curiosity as she approached. Hello, little one, Cecilia said softly, feeling an inexplicable connection with the baby. Her first bottle is over there, Bianca pointed to an insulated container on the dresser. Remember to check the temperature first. When Bianca left for her appointment, Cecilia could finally breathe more easily. She carefully picked Helen up, gently swaying her while humming a lullaby. The baby smiled, revealing pink gums. As she prepared the bottle, Cecilia noticed something strange. A faint metallic odor emanated from the liquid when she warmed it. She frowned, smelling it again. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. As a precaution, she tested a few drops on her own wrist, as she always did. The temperature seemed adequate, but something bothered her. Helen, however, seemed eager for the food, waving her little arms. That night, after putting Helen to sleep, Cecilia took a small blue notebook from her suitcase. On the first page, she wrote the date and began to record her observations of the day. The advanced clock, Bianca's controlling behavior, Jaron's disturbing gaze, and most importantly, that strange smell in the bottles. She looked out the window at the moon shining over the mansion's gardens. Something was not right in that house, and she was determined to find out what. What Cecilia didn't know was that her arrival had set in motion gears that had been turning long before she stepped onto that property, and that the fate of little Helen and her own were far more intertwined than she could imagine. 2 weeks had passed since Cecilia's arrival at Albrook Manor. During this period, she established a routine with Helen, increasingly gaining the little one's trust, who smiled whenever she saw her enter the nursery. Henry remained distant, rarely spending more than 15 minutes with his daughter before diving into phone calls and meetings. Bianca, in turn, supervised Cecilia's every move with a critical gaze that barely disguised her suspicion. That Wednesday morning, Cecilia woke up earlier than usual. Something had been bothering her since the previous night, when Helen had trouble sleeping, restless and whimpering for no apparent reason. As she prepared for another day of work, she heard the low sound of voices coming from the corridor. She quietly approached the door and recognized the voices of Bianca and Jaron. "Everything is under control," Bianca whispered. "He doesn't suspect a thing." "And the new nanny?" Jaron's hoarse voice carried a palpable concern. "Naive like the others. She just does what we tell her." The footsteps moved away before Cecilia could hear more. She took a deep breath, feeling her heart race. In her blue notebook there were already pages filled with disturbing observations, the clock always ahead in the nursery. As if someone wanted to confuse the feeding times, the glances exchanged between Bianca and Jaron when they thought no one was watching, and most importantly, that metallic smell in the bottles that, for some reason, seemed stronger on certain days. Cecilia went to the nursery and found Helen already awake, but unusually quiet. As she picked her up, she noticed something alarming. Small, pink spots spread across the baby's neck and arms. "What's this, little one?" she murmured, examining the spots carefully. The child's temperature seemed slightly elevated. Concerned, Cecilia checked the digital thermometer, 37.8 degrees. It wasn't a high fever, but considering the spots, she decided she needed to inform Henry immediately. She found the businessman in his office, about to leave for another day of work. "Mr. Albrook, I apologize for interrupting you, but Helen has developed some skin spots and has a slight fever." Henry frowned, appearing genuinely concerned. "Spots? What kind of spots?" "Small pink dots, mainly on her neck and arms. They appeared overnight, I believe." He immediately picked up the phone. "I'll call Dr. Evans. He's been her pediatrician since birth." Cecilia watched as the businessman described the symptoms over the phone. On the other end of the line, the doctor seemed to ask questions that Henry answered with growing impatience. "He says it's probably just an allergic reaction," he explained after hanging up. He asked if there had been any change in her diet or hygiene products. "Not that I know of, sir. I've been strictly following the instructions in the manual." Bianca entered the office, wearing a silk robe and pretending to have just woken up, although Cecilia knew she had been perfectly awake for at least an hour. "What happened?" she asked with a concern that didn't reach her eyes. Henry explained the situation, while Bianca cast accusatory glances at Cecilia. "It must be some carelessness," Bianca commented, adjusting the gold bracelets on her wrist. "Perhaps the nanny isn't sterilizing the bottles properly." "I follow the protocol to the letter," Cecilia defended herself, maintaining her composure. "In fact, I've noticed something strange with the bottles in recent days." "Strange how?" Henry turned his attention back to her. "A peculiar odor. Metallic." Bianca laughed disdainfully. "It's the new disinfectant I'm using, imported from Switzerland. Much more effective than these questionable domestic products." "Dr. Evans prescribed an antihistamine," Henry intervened, handing over a paper with the prescription. "Cecilia, please ask Hilda to pick this up at the pharmacy immediately." As Cecilia left the office, she heard Bianca murmur something about inexperience and, "Perhaps we need to find someone more qualified." The insinuation was clear, but Cecilia was determined not to be intimidated. Throughout the day, she monitored Helen closely. The spots did not diminish, even after the first dose of medication. In the afternoon, when preparing the bottles scheduled for 3 p.m., Cecilia noticed that the metallic smell was stronger than ever, now mixed with a citrus aroma that Bianca had mentioned. Was from the new disinfectant. Something didn't make sense. Why did only some bottles have this more pronounced smell? Why was the clock in the nursery always ahead, causing the bottles to be administered before the correct time? Cecilia decided to run a test. She pretended to warm the bottle, but in reality, she prepared a new one using the reserve formula kept in the kitchen. Helen drank the milk eagerly, and to Cecilia's surprise, did not show the usual restlessness that followed feedings. That night, while everyone slept, Cecilia carefully examined the baby bottles stored in the kitchen refrigerator. Under the dim light, she noticed something that had gone unnoticed. Micro scratches on certain bottles, as if something had been introduced through the rubber of the lid. With a sterile syringe from the first aid kit, she extracted a small sample from one of the suspicious bottles and stored it in an empty medicine vial. The next day, Helen seemed a little better. The spots had diminished, though they were still visible. Cecilia continued secretly replacing the suspicious bottles with new ones she prepared herself. During lunch, Bianca unexpectedly appeared in the kitchen when Cecilia was feeding Helen. "What's that?" she asked, pointing to the bottle that was different from the usual one. Cecilia remained calm. "Helen regurgitated a little from the last bottle, so I prepared a new one. I didn't want to bother anyone." Bianca narrowed her eyes. "You know that any change in routine must be communicated to me first, right?" "Sorry. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision." Bianca picked up the original bottle Cecilia had set aside, examining it. "This one is still almost full. Why didn't you continue with it?" As I said, Helen regurgitated. I thought it best not to insist on the same one. Tense silence hung between the two women. Bianca finally returned the bottle to the table. Next time, consult me first. The formulas are specially prepared for Helen's specific nutritional needs. After Bianca left, Cecilia noticed that the original bottle had disappeared. That confirmed her suspicions. There was something wrong with that milk, and Bianca knew it. The next morning, Cecilia found Helen with a high fever and more spots spread across her body. This time, not even the secret bottle substitutions seemed to be helping. The baby cried constantly, inconsolable. Henry called Dr. Evans for an emergency visit. The doctor, a middle-aged man with round glasses and a deliberate voice, examined Helen meticulously. The symptoms are consistent with a severe allergic reaction, he concluded, but I can't identify the trigger. Have you changed anything recently? Cleaning products, sheets, food? Absolutely nothing, Bianca replied quickly. We strictly follow the protocol you established. The doctor prescribed a more intensive treatment and recommended allergy tests if the symptoms persisted. When he left, Cecilia noticed an exchange of glances between Bianca and Jaron, who coincidentally was working near the entrance door during the doctor's visit. That night, Cecilia decided she needed outside help. Suspicions had turned into certainty. Someone was deliberately harming little Helen, but who would believe her? A plan began to form in her mind. In her blue notebook she wrote, "The truth is in the milk, and I'm going to prove it." In the early hours, while everyone slept, Cecilia took out her phone and sent a message to Theo, her childhood friend who worked as a technician in a clinical analysis laboratory. I need your help. It's an emergency. Can I meet you tomorrow morning before your shift? The reply came almost immediately. Sure, 7 a.m. at the coffee shop, on the corner of the lab. Has something serious happened? More than you can imagine, and a child is in danger. Cecilia put her phone away and returned to the nursery, where Helen had finally fallen asleep. She gently stroked the little one's hair, feeling a fierce determination grow within her. Don't worry, she whispered. I'll find out what they're doing to you, and I'll protect you, no matter the cost. What Cecilia didn't realize was the shadow that moved silently from the other side of the ajar door, observing her every move. Someone had heard her promise, and that someone would not let her fulfill it. The London sky still held the orange hues of dawn when Cecilia crossed the doors of the London coffee house, near the laboratory where Theo worked. The small vial with the milk sample was carefully hidden in her bag. She had managed to leave the mansion by claiming she needed to buy personal hygiene products, taking advantage of Henry having left for a morning meeting and Bianca still sleeping. Theo was already there, distractedly stirring his coffee while checking his phone. Seeing Cecilia, he immediately stood up, his face concerned. You look exhausted, he commented, pulling out a chair for her. What's going on? Cecilia looked around, making sure no one could hear them. I need you to analyze this, she said, discreetly sliding the vial under the table. And I need it to be completely confidential. Theo frowned, examining the yellowish-white liquid. Is this milk? Infant formula, Cecilia corrected. I believe it's contaminated with something. The baby I'm caring for exhibits strange symptoms after feedings, skin spots, fever, irritability. You think someone is deliberately poisoning a child? Theo seemed incredulous. I'm not sure, but there are very strange things happening in that house. The metallic odor, the specific bottles, the advanced clock. She hesitated. And there's more. The father's fiancée seems to observe the child as if she were monitoring the progress of an experiment, not like someone who loves a child. Theo put the vial in his lab coat pocket. That's a serious accusation, Cece. Are you sure you're not exaggerating? Maybe it's just accidental contamination or an allergic reaction, as the doctor suggested. That's why I need this analysis, to be sure. Cecilia held her friend's hand. Can you do it today? I can try, but it will have to be off the books. I can't officially register this without a medical request. He checked his watch. I have a break at 2 p.m. I'll try to analyze it then. Thank you, Theo. This could save a child's life. As she returned to the mansion, Cecilia mentally rehearsed an excuse for her prolonged absence. Upon arrival, she found Bianca at the door, arms crossed and a stern expression. "Where were you?" The voice was as icy as the winter wind. "I went to buy some personal items," Cecilia replied, showing the pharmacy bag. "I ran out of toiletries. For almost 2 hours?" Bianca raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Helena woke up crying. I had to calm her myself." "I'm sorry. I had to go to several pharmacies to find my specific brand of—" "Spare me the details," Bianca interrupted, turning to go inside. "Henry is furious. Helena had another fever episode and you weren't here." Cecilia's heart raced. "Another episode? She was fine when I left." "Fine?" Bianca let out a humorless laugh. "Under your care, her health has only worsened." In the study, Henry paced back and forth, the phone pressed against his ear. Seeing Cecilia, he ended the call abruptly. "Where on earth were you?" His voice echoed through the walls. "My daughter needed you." "I'm so sorry, sir. I don't want to hear excuses. I hired you to take care of Helena, and at the first sign of trouble, you disappear." Bianca placed a hand on Henry's arm in a calculated gesture of support. "Darling, perhaps we should reconsider. If she can't handle a simple emergency—" "That's not what happened," Cecilia defended herself, feeling her blood boil at the injustice. "Helena was stable when I left, and I've observed patterns in her episodes that—" "Patterns?" Henry frowned. "What patterns?" Before Cecilia could answer, Bianca intervened. "Henry, she's trying to deflect attention from her own negligence. Typical." Cecilia took a deep breath. She couldn't reveal her suspicions without concrete proof. "Mr. Albright, I can assure you I am committed to Helena's well-being. If you give me a few more days—" "Days?" Henry ran a hand through his hair, exasperated. "My daughter's health can't wait a few more days. Dr. Evans suggested hospitalizing her for observation if the symptoms persist." A heavy silence filled the room. Cecilia noticed a flicker of, could it be concern, fear, in Bianca's eyes. "Hospitalization?" Bianca seemed genuinely alarmed. "That won't be necessary. The stronger antihistamine Dr. Evans prescribed should resolve it." Henry sighed deeply. "I hope so. I couldn't bear to see Helena suffering in a hospital." "May I see her now?" Cecilia asked, anxious to assess the baby's condition. Henry nodded but added in a warning tone, "I'm giving you one more chance, Cecilia. Don't waste it." In the nursery, Helena slept restlessly, the pinkish spots more intense than ever. Mrs. Zilda, who had apparently been called to care for the baby during Cecilia's absence, was silently tidying some clothes. "How is she?" Cecilia whispered. The housekeeper shrugged. "The fever went down with the medicine. But something isn't right with this child." Cecilia approached. "What do you mean?" Mrs. Zilda glanced at the door, making sure they were alone. "I've worked for wealthy families for over 30 years. I know when something is wrong." She hesitated. "The little one always gets worse after feedings, especially those that Mrs. Bianca personally supervises." A shiver ran down Cecilia's spine. "You noticed it too." "I've noticed a lot," Mrs. Zilda murmured, closing the drawer, "including the conversations between her and that gardener. When they think no one is listening, what do they say?" Mrs. Zilda shook her head. "I don't hear exact words, but the tone, it's conspiratorial." The housekeeper looked at Helena with genuine concern. "This child is the spitting image of her mother. As beautiful as Mrs. Mariana was. You knew Helena's mother." A sad smile crossed Mrs. Zilda's face. "I worked for her since she married Mr. Henry, a sweet woman. Her loss was devastating for all of us." She made the sign of the cross. "Especially for Mr. Henry, he never fully recovered." "How did she—" Cecilia hesitated, unsure how to phrase the question. "An accident," Mrs. Zilda replied briefly. "I wasn't here when it happened. I was visiting my family in the northeast of the country." Her eyes darkened. "When I returned, she was already gone, and less than 6 months later, Mrs. Bianca was already settled in the mansion." Cecilia's phone vibrated in her pocket. A message from Leo. "Got to analyze it earlier. Worrying result. Can we talk?" "I need to take this call," Cecilia said quickly. Can you stay with Helena a few more minutes? Mrs. Zilda nodded. Go, I'll watch her. Cecilia went. Out into the garden, looking for a private spot to call Leo, she found a stone bench partially hidden by a pergola covered in flowering vines. Checking that no one was watching her, she made the call. Leo, what did you find? Her friend's voice sounded tense. Cecilia, this is serious. The sample contains traces of a toxic compound. In small doses, it would cause exactly the symptoms you described: skin rashes, fever, malaise. Cecilia's heart seemed to have stopped. Are you sure? Absolutely. It's an agent present in some household products, the kind of thing that wouldn't raise suspicion if found in a normal house. But the concentration and the pattern, this isn't accidental contamination. Someone is administering it deliberately in microdoses. My God, Cecilia whispered, her hand trembling so much she almost dropped the phone. There's more, Leo continued. I examined the bottle too. The cap and the container are from different batches. Someone replaced the original cap, probably to inject the substance. I need a report, Leo. Something to prove this. I've already prepared it. I'll send it to your email, but Cecilia, be careful. Whoever is doing this is meticulous and patient. And if they find out, I can't think about that now. A child is in danger. As soon as she hung up, Cecilia felt a presence behind her. She turned abruptly and found Jasper, the gardener, holding pruning shears. Important conversation? He asked with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Just personal matters, Cecilia replied, trying to control the tremor in her voice. Jasper took a step forward. You know, in this house, the walls have ears. And the gardens, too. He twirled the shears between his fingers. Some people should learn not to meddle where they're not called. Before Cecilia could respond, her cell phone vibrated again. An email from Leo with the promised report. Jasper looked at the device, then back at Cecilia's face. I hope it's nothing compromising, he commented, pointing at the phone with the shears. It would be a shame if something happened to someone so dedicated to little Helena. The threat was crystal clear. Cecilia swallowed hard, putting her phone away. Just a friend asking how I am. She stood up. I need to go back. Helena needs me. As she walked away, she felt Jasper's gaze burning into her back. He had heard. How? Much she didn't know, but enough to pose a danger. Back in the nursery, she found Helena awake, looking at her with those big, trusting eyes. Mrs. Zilda had left. Alone with the baby, Cecilia allowed the tears to come. I'll protect you, she promised, stroking the child's warm little face. I won't let them hurt you anymore. At that moment, an idea began to form. Cecilia needed more conclusive proof, something that couldn't be ignored or explained away. And there was a potential source of evidence she hadn't yet explored, the mansion's security cameras. During dinner, when Henry casually mentioned his business trip the next day, Cecilia realized she would have an opportunity. With Henry gone and Bianca busy with her social engagements, she could investigate the monitoring system she had discreetly noticed installed in the main study. Later that night, as she recorded the day's events in her blue notebook, Cecilia heard a soft sound at her bedroom door. A white envelope had been slid underneath. Inside, a piece of paper with a single typed sentence. You shouldn't have tampered with the bottle. Her blood ran cold. They knew. And now, the race against time had begun. Whoever was poisoning Helena would surely accelerate their plans now that they felt threatened. Cecilia needed to act fast. Helena's life and her own depended on it. The next morning arrived with a palpable tension hanging over the Albright mansion. Henry had left for London before dawn, leaving strict instructions regarding Helena's care. Bianca, surprisingly, cancelled her engagements to personally supervise the nanny, words that sounded like a veiled threat to Cecilia's ears. The first rays of sun were still filtering through the curtains when Cecilia entered the nursery. Helena was sleeping, her little face less blotchy than on previous days, a result of the bottles Cecilia had secretly replaced. The small victory, however, was overshadowed by the previous night's discovery. Someone knew what she was doing. Someone was watching her. Up early today, Bianca's voice came from behind her, making her jump. Henry's fiancée was impeccably dressed and made up, as if she were about to attend a photo shoot, not a normal day at home. "I wanted to check how Helena had spent the night," Cecilia replied, keeping her voice calm despite her racing heart. Bianca approached the crib, examining the child with a clinical eye. "The spots have decreased. Yes, the new medicine seems to be working." "Medicine?" Bianca raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Or would it be your personal intervention?" Cecilia's stomach dropped. The accusation was there, floating in the air between them. "I don't know what you're talking about." A cold, almost musical laugh formed on Bianca's lips. "What an absurd accusation! Do you think I, the future mother of this child, would poison her? Why would I do something so monstrous?" "That's what I intend to find out." Bianca's smile disappeared, replaced by an icy expression. "You're playing with fire, Cecilia. And those who play with fire—" Helena's cry interrupted the veiled threat. The baby had woken up, agitated and tearful. Cecilia immediately turned to her, but Bianca was faster, interposing herself between the nanny and the crib. "I'll take care of her. You've done enough." "I don't trust you with her," Cecilia said, not disguising her hostility. "It's not a matter of trust," Bianca retorted, picking Helena up with calculated delicacy. "It's a matter of authority, and in this house I have more authority than you." Cecilia took a step forward. "I won't allow you to—" "Allow me to what?" "Take care of the child who will soon officially be my daughter." Bianca rocked Helena with false tenderness. "Henry and I will be married in less than a month. I will be this child's legal mother. And you? You'll be nothing but a problematic ex-employee." The nursery door opened, and Mrs. Zilda appeared with an apprehensive expression. "Is everything all right here? I heard raised voices." "Perfectly fine, Zilda," Bianca replied, her tone instantly transforming into artificial sweetness. "Just a small professional disagreement. Could you prepare breakfast for Helena? Cecilia seems unwell today." The housekeeper shot a worried glance at Cecilia before nodding and leaving. Alone again, Bianca approached Cecilia, still cradling Helena. "I've been patient with your investigations because Henry insists you're good with the baby. But my patience has limits. I suggest you focus on your job and leave family matters to the family." "Helena is my responsibility," Cecilia retorted, "and I will protect her at all costs." "Even at the cost of your job, or something more valuable?" Before Cecilia could answer, Bianca's phone rang. She answered quickly, a shadow of irritation crossing her perfect face. "Now is not a good time," she said to the unknown caller. Her eyes fixed on Cecilia as she spoke. "Yes, she's still here. No, not yet. Be patient." Hanging up the phone, Bianca handed Helena to Cecilia with a brusque movement. "I have an unexpected engagement. Take care of her, but remember what we talked about." When Bianca left, Cecilia hugged Helena tightly, feeling the small heart beating against hers. The threat was clear. She was in danger, and possibly Helena too. Time was running out. With Helena calmer after breakfast, Cecilia took advantage of Bianca's absence to put her plan into action. She knew the mansion had a sophisticated security system, with cameras, in almost every room. If she could access the recordings, perhaps she would find evidence of the poisoning. Henry's study was on the ground floor next to the library. Cecilia knew the security system monitor was there. She had noticed the multiple screens when she had been called for a conversation days ago. With Helena in her arms, she walked casually down the hallway, checking that she wasn't being watched. Upon reaching the study door, she hesitated. It was locked. Looking for something. Cecilia turned, startled. Jasper was standing a few feet away, a malicious smile on his thin lips. "Just looking for Mr. Henry," she lied. "I forgot he was traveling." "The boss won't be back until tomorrow," the gardener replied, approaching with slow steps. "Quite a coincidence you're looking for him just when Mrs. Bianca left, don't you think?" Cecilia recoiled, pressing Helena against her chest. "I don't know what you're talking about. I just wanted to ask about Helena's new medicine." Jasper tilted his head, studying her. "You know, I always thought you were different from the other nannies, more meddlesome." He moved closer, the smell of earth and something chemical emanating from him. Meddlesome people tend to find things they shouldn't. I'm just doing my job, Cecilia retorted, struggling to keep her voice firm. Taking care of Helena. Are you really? And does that include rummaging through bottles, making suspicious calls, trying to enter the boss's study? Fear gave way to anger. And does your job include poisoning an innocent child? Jasper's expression hardened. Be careful what you say, young lady. Accusations like that can be dangerous. He looked at Helena with a coldness that made Cecilia shiver. For everyone involved. At that moment, Cecilia's phone rang. It was Leo. I need to take this, she said, stepping aside. Jasper watched her walk away but made no move to stop her. The sinister smile, however, did not leave his face. Leo, I can't talk right now, Cecilia whispered as she answered. It's urgent, he insisted, his voice tense. Someone broke into my car last night. They ransacked everything and there was a note on the windshield. Stay out of this. Cecilia's heart skipped a beat. My God! Are you okay? I am, but I'm scared. What are you investigating, Cecilia? What kind of trouble have you gotten yourself into? I can't explain now, but I need you to keep a copy of that report in a safe place. I've already done that, but I'm worried about you. Whatever is happening, it seems dangerous. It's more dangerous than I imagined, she admitted, looking at Helena, who was distractedly playing with a button on her blouse. But I can't back down now. After hanging up, Cecilia returned to Helena's room, her mind working frantically. If she couldn't access the cameras, she needed another type of proof. Maybe she could install her own camera, record Bianca or Jasper in the act. Her thoughts were interrupted by shouts coming from downstairs. Carefully placing Helena in the crib, Cecilia rushed to see what was happening. In the main living room, Bianca gestured frantically, feigned tears streaming down her perfect face. Two uniformed police officers listened attentively, while Mrs. Zilda watched the scene with visible discomfort. What's going on? Cecilia asked, descending the stairs. All eyes turned to her. Bianca pointed an accusing finger. Her! She's the thief! What are you talking about? Cecilia looked confused at the police officers. One of the officers, a middle-aged man with a tired expression, stepped forward. Miss Oliveira, we received a report of theft at this residence. Theft? That's absurd. My emerald necklace is missing, Bianca explained between theatrical sobs. An engagement gift from Henry, extremely valuable. Cecilia shook her head, incredulous. And you think I took it? Why? To sell, obviously, Bianca replied. Or perhaps to have some leverage for your crazy accusations against me. What accusations? The officer asked, his gaze alternating between the two women. She's been accusing me of mistreating Helena, Bianca replied quickly. She invented an absurd story about poisoning. I think she's mentally unstable. That's a lie, Cecilia exclaimed. I have proof that the baby is being poisoned. The lab report that... See? Bianca interrupted, addressing the officers. Delusions of persecution. Henry hired her out of pity. She has a history of instability. And this is how she thanks us. The second officer, younger and apparently more skeptical, intervened. Miss Oliveira, would you mind if we took a look at your belongings? Not at all, Cecilia replied, confident in her innocence. I have nothing to hide. The group went up to Cecilia's room. As the officers searched her things, she noticed an exchange of glances between Bianca and Jasper, who had coincidentally appeared at the door, claiming to need to check a nearby window. What's this? Asked the older officer, holding up a small glittering object from the bottom of Cecilia's suitcase. Bianca let out a theatrical scream. My necklace! I knew it! Cecilia was paralyzed with shock. That's not mine. I've never seen that necklace before. Someone put it in my suitcase. A classic defense, Bianca commented with disdain. All thieves say the same thing. The younger officer frowned. How did you know it would be in her suitcase? The question caught Bianca by surprise. I didn't know. It was a guess. A very precise guess, the officer observed. Before the situation could develop, the phone rang. Mrs. Zilda answered and, with a grave expression, informed them it was Henry. Bianca took the phone, her voice instantly transforming into a soft lament. "Darling, something terrible has happened. Yes, the police are here. My emerald necklace, the one you gave me. They found it with the nanny. Yes, she's here." "What? Are you sure? But—" Cecilia observed Bianca's expression change during the conversation. When she hung up, her face had hardened. "Henry is coming back immediately," she announced. "He wants to deal with this personally. Until then, the nanny must remain under supervision but without being arrested." The officers agreed, visibly uncomfortable with the situation. They instructed Cecilia not to leave the property and then left, taking the necklace as evidence. When everyone had gone, Cecilia collapsed onto the bed, her hands trembling. The trap was clear now. They wanted to discredit her, make her seem unbalanced or criminal, and they almost succeeded. The sound of a distant cry roused her from her thoughts. Helen. The baby needed her regardless of what was happening. In the nursery, she found the little one agitated, her tiny face again covered in spots. Beside the crib, a freshly prepared baby bottle waited. Cecilia examined it carefully. The same metallic odor, now so familiar, emanated from the liquid. Determined, she poured the contents out the window and prepared a new bottle with formula she had hidden in her room. As she fed Helen, her mind worked frantically. Henry would be back soon, and she would have only one chance to convince him. She needed irrefutable proof. An idea sparked in her mind. The security cameras. If Henry had access to the recordings, he could see Bianca or Gyro planting. The necklace in her belongings. He could see the suspicious bottle exchanges. At that moment, her phone vibrated with a message from Tiago. "Analysis confirmed. Toxic substance identified. Chemical compound present in household cleaning products. In small doses, it causes the described symptoms. Continuous exposure can lead to serious consequences. Full report attached." Cecilia quickly downloaded the file, a digital proof of the conspiracy. But she knew it wouldn't be enough. She needed more. Night fell over Albuquerque Manor, bringing with it a storm that seemed to reflect the turmoil within the house. Cecilia, confined to her room by Bianca's order, heard raised voices downstairs. Henry had returned. Moments later, heavy knocking sounded at her door. Henry entered without waiting for a response, his face a mask of fury and disappointment. "How could you?" he asked, his voice trembling with anger. "We trusted you. I opened my home to you, and you steal from us." "Mr. Albuquerque, please listen to me," Cecilia pleaded, standing up. "I didn't steal anything. I'm being framed because I discovered something terrible." "More lies?" He shook his head. "Bianca told me about your theories. Poisoning? Conspiracy? Do you think I wouldn't protect my own daughter if I believed she was in danger?" "That's exactly what I'm trying to do," Cecilia exclaimed, desperate. "Protect Helen. I have proof that someone is contaminating her baby bottles. A lab report confirms—" "Enough!" Henry interrupted, raising his hand. "I don't want to hear any more. You're fired, Cecilia. I want you out of my house by morning." "Please, just look at the report," she begged, grabbing her phone. "Or the security camera recordings. They'll show who planted the necklace, who is tampering with the baby bottles." For a moment something wavered in Henry's eyes, a shadow of doubt. But it quickly vanished. "That's enough. I've made my decision. Tomorrow morning I want you out of here, and be grateful I didn't allow the police to take you." As the door closed behind him, Cecilia felt tears burn in her eyes. She had failed. Helen would remain at the mercy of people who wanted to harm her, and there was nothing she could do. Or was there? Wiping away her tears with renewed determination, Cecilia picked up her blue notebook. On the last page, she wrote a plan. If she couldn't protect Helen from inside the house, she would do it. From outside, she wouldn't give up, no matter the personal cost, because now more than ever she felt her destiny was intertwined with that innocent child's, and somehow she would find a way to save her. The rain fell relentlessly over London as Cecilia left Albuquerque Manor the following morning. The driver, the same one who had brought her weeks ago, remained silent as he drove through the drenched streets. In the back seat, she clutched her backpack containing her few belongings and, more importantly, her blue notebook with all her notes. You can drop me here, Cecilia requested when they reached a middle-class neighborhood in North London. The driver nodded, still not saying a word. He seemed embarrassed. Perhaps Bianca had spread rumors about her throughout the house. It mattered little now. Cecilia walked through the rain to a small 3-story building. Tiago's apartment was on the 2nd floor. She rang the doorbell, trembling with cold and anxiety. "My God, you're soaked!" Tiago exclaimed as he opened the door. "Come in, quickly." The apartment was small but cozy. Stacked biochemistry books shared space with homemade lab equipment. Tiago had always been passionate about science beyond work. "You look exhausted," he commented, handing her a towel and a change of clothes. "What happened?" As she dried off, Cecilia told him everything: the theft accusation, the dismissal, the veiled threats. Tiago listened attentively, his expression growing increasingly grave. "This is more serious than we imagined," he said when she finished. "We're dealing with dangerous people, Cece. Maybe we should go to the police." "With what proof?" Cecilia asked bitterly. "An unofficial report from a sample I stole? My word against that of a respected socialite and an influential businessman. Not to mention that now I'm a thief." Tiago sighed, running a hand through his curly hair. "What do you plan to do then?" Cecilia opened her blue notebook, revealing pages and pages of meticulous notes. "I have a plan, but I'll need your help." In the following hours, they worked together, organizing all the evidence Cecilia had collected. Tiago used his technical knowledge to prepare a detailed report on the substance found in the baby bottles. Cecilia transferred all her notes to the computer, creating digital copies. "We need backups," she explained, saving the files on 3 different USB drives. "If something happens to one, we'll have the others." "Do you really think they would try something against you?" Tiago asked, worried. Cecilia thought of Gyro's gaze, Bianca's veiled threats, the anonymous note. "I'm sure of it. And that's why we need to be extremely careful." In the afternoon, exhausted but determined, they finalized the plan. Cecilia would send an anonymous email to Henry with part of the evidence and a simple message: "The truth is in the milk." It would be the first step to make him question Bianca's version. "What if he ignores it?" Tiago asked. "Then we move to Plan B." Cecilia showed a more detailed letter draft, revealing all the evidence which would be delivered to him personally if the email didn't work. While Tiago prepared a simple dinner, Cecilia distractedly browsed the internet, searching for information about the Albuquerque family. She needed to better understand who these people were, what kind of influence they had. She found several articles about Henry's ventures, his estimated fortune in billions, his reputation as a visionary businessman, and then something caught her attention. A newspaper article from 3 years ago reported Henry's marriage to Mariana Costa, described as a psychologist and philanthropist. The article included a photo of the smiling couple. Cecilia froze, the glass she was holding slipping from her fingers and shattering on the floor. "What's wrong?" Tiago asked, rushing from the kitchen. "Are you hurt?" But Cecilia couldn't answer. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, on the image of the woman next to Henry. A woman with brown hair, almond-shaped eyes, and a smile Cecilia knew better than her own reflection. "It can't be," she finally murmured, her voice almost inaudible. "What is it?" Tiago insisted, looking at the screen. "Who is this?" "Mariana," Cecilia replied, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "Henry's late wife. Helen's mother. She looked up at Tiago, her face as pale as paper. "Tiago, this is Gabriella, my sister." The shock on Tiago's face reflected the whirlwind of emotions that swept through Cecilia. "Your sister, but you said she disappeared 10 years ago," Cecilia completed, her voice trembling. "We were very young. She left to study in another state and we lost contact. After months without news, we received information that she had suffered an accident on a road in the Scottish Highlands." Cecilia swallowed hard, painful memories returning. The body was never found, but the authorities presumed that... She couldn't finish. Tiago sat beside her, trying to process the revelation. Are you saying your sister, whom you thought was dead, was actually alive? That she changed her identity and married Henry Albuquerque?" "It sounds crazy, I know," Cecilia replied, wiping away tears. "But it's her, Tiago. I'd recognize Gabriela anywhere." She zoomed in on the photo, pointing to a detail on Mariana's neck, a necklace with a crescent moon pendant. "This necklace. We had matching necklaces. She had the crescent moon, I had the sun. We were inseparable as children." Cecilia pulled out a chain hidden under her blouse, revealing a sun-shaped pendant. "I never took mine off." Tiago observed the images, the similarities between the two women becoming more evident the longer he looked. But why would she do that? Why disappear and create a new identity? "I don't know," Cecilia replied, her mind working frantically. Maybe she was in danger, or maybe— She paused, a sudden realization hitting her. Maybe it wasn't her choice. In the following minutes, Cecilia frantically searched for more information about Mariana Costa. She discovered that Mariana had appeared on the London social scene only 4 years ago, with no easily traceable prior records. She had met Henry at a charity event. They married quickly, and a year later Helen was born. And how did she— Tiago hesitated, choosing his words. "A car accident, according to what I found," Cecilia replied, quickly reading an online obituary. 8 months ago, which means Helen is your niece," Tiago completed, equally shocked. The revelation hit Cecilia like a lightning bolt, rearranging all the pieces of the puzzle. The inexplicable connection she had felt with Helen from the very first moment, the déjà vu upon entering the manor, even the baby's birthmark, identical to one Gabriela had on her temple. "That's why Bianca wants to get rid of Helen," Cecilia murmured, the gears clicking into place. "She's not just eliminating an heir, she's eliminating the last link between Henry and my sister." "But you're a link now too," Tiago observed, concern in his voice. "If they discover your true identity—" Cecilia abruptly stood up. "I need to go back to the manor now." "What? That's crazy. You were fired. There are probably orders not to let you in." "I don't care. Helen is my niece, Tiago, my blood, and she's in danger." "At least wait until tomorrow," he pleaded. "It's almost night. The rain is getting worse. Let's think of a safe plan." But Cecilia was unyielding. "There's no time. If Bianca realizes I left without a fight, she'll accelerate her plan. I need to go back today." After more arguments, Tiago finally conceded, but with one condition: he would go with her. As he prepared, Cecilia made a decision. She took one of the USB drives containing all the evidence and hid it inside a small knitted teddy bear she had brought from the nursery, a gift she had made for Helen in her free time. "If anything happens to me," she told Tiago, handing him the other USB drives and a sealed letter, "give this to Henry, only to him." The drive back to Albuquerque Manor seemed endless. Tiago drove carefully through the slippery streets, while Cecilia mentally reviewed everything she knew. How would she confront Bianca? How would she convince Henry of the truth? And most importantly, how would she protect Helen? "I'll drop you at the back gate," Tiago said as they approached. "Are you sure you can get in?" Cecilia nodded. "Zelda leaves the service area door unlocked late for staff who leave after dinner, and I know how to deactivate the alarm for that entrance." "I'll be waiting at the gas station 2 blocks from here," Tiago informed her. "If I don't hear from you in an hour, I'll call the police." When the car stopped a safe distance from the back of the property, Cecilia took a deep breath. "Thank you, Tiago, for everything." He squeezed her hand. "Be careful. And remember, 1 hour, not a minute more." The rain had lessened to a fine drizzle as Cecilia crept through the back gardens of the manor. The lights of the main house were on, but the staff area was dark and silent. As expected, the service door was ajar. Cecilia entered silently, her knowledge of the house allowing her to avoid the monitored camera points. Her first destination was the nursery. She needed to check on Helen, replace any poisoned bottles, and leave the teddy bear with the hidden USB drive, a safeguard for the future. The second-floor hallway was silent when she arrived, moving like a shadow. The nursery door was ajar, a soft light coming from within. Cecilia approached cautiously and peeked in. What she saw made her blood run cold. Bianca, her back to the door, leaning over Helen's crib. In her hand, a small syringe that she was bringing close to a baby bottle. Without thinking, Cecilia pushed the door open. "Get away from her!" Bianca spun around abruptly, hiding the syringe behind her back. Her face, usually composed, showed genuine surprise. "You? How did you get in here? What are you injecting into her bottle?" Cecilia demanded, advancing. Bianca recoiled, her initial shock transforming into a cold smile. "So you came back. I knew you'd do something stupid like this. Answer my question." Cecilia positioned herself between Bianca and the crib, where Helen slept, oblivious to the drama. "I don't owe explanations to a fired employee," Bianca retorted, regaining her usual composure. "You are trespassing on private property. Leave before I call security." "I'm not going anywhere without my niece." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Bianca blinked, momentarily disconcerted. "What are you talking about?" "You know very well." Cecilia took a step forward. "Mariana Costa was actually Gabriela Oliveira, my sister, which means Helen is my niece." Bianca's face paled for an instant, but soon her features recomposed into a mask of disdain. "What a ridiculous story. You're clearly disturbed." "Disturbed? Me?" Cecilia let out a bitter laugh. "I'm not the one poisoning a child to inherit a fortune." Bianca's eyes flashed. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "On the contrary, I know exactly who you are. A murderer who eliminated my sister and now wants to do the same to her daughter." The accusation hung in the tension-filled air. For the first time, Cecilia saw something genuine in Bianca's eyes. Panic. "You have no proof of any of this." "I have more than you imagine." Cecilia pulled her phone from her pocket, including the report, confirming the poison in the baby bottles, and something even better, copies of the security recordings that show you and Gyro tampering with the milk. It was a bluff. Cecilia did not have access to the recordings, but the effect was immediate. Bianca instinctively looked at the small camera in the corner of the nursery, one she clearly thought was deactivated. "Impossible. You couldn't have access to that." "I have friends in the security department," Cecilia lied confidently. "The last 30 days of recordings are all here." She shook her phone. "And I've already sent copies to several recipients as a guarantee." At that moment, Helen began to whimper, waking from her sleep. Cecilia kept her eyes on Bianca as she approached the crib, picking the little one up in her arms. "It's okay, my love," she whispered, cradling the child. "Aunt Cecilia is here now." Bianca watched the scene, her eyes calculating possibilities. Suddenly, her phone vibrated. She took it out of her pocket, checked the message, and smiled. How touching, the dedicated aunt saving her niece. Her tone was venomous. "Enjoy it while you can." Before Cecilia could respond, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Gyro appeared at the door, a sinister smile on his lips. "Look who's back," he commented. "The meddling nanny." "You're late," Bianca reprimanded, annoyed. "She's been here too long already." Gyro shrugged. "I had to make sure no one would interrupt us." "Does the plan remain the same?" "Yes. Take her to the back storeroom. I'll deal with her later." "And what about—" Gyro looked at Helen. "I'll take care of that too. Go." Cecilia clutched Helen to her chest, backing up against the wall. "I'm not going anywhere with him. And if you touch a hair on her head, I swear you'll—" "What?" Bianca interrupted, laughing. "Call the police, tell your crazy theory about missing sisters and conspiracies. No one would believe you." Gyro advanced, but Cecilia was faster. With a sudden movement, she pushed the nearby dresser, partially blocking the way. "Stay away!" The noise completely woke Helen, who began to cry loudly. Gyro circumvented the furniture, approaching menacingly. "Don't complicate things, miss. It doesn't have to end like this." Cecilia backed up to the window, her mind working frantically. There was no escape. Gyro blocked the door. Bianca approached from the other side. She was cornered. It was then that she noticed something on the opposite wall, a framed photograph she hadn't seen before. An image of Henry and Mariana, Gabriela, smiling together on a beach. Her sister wore the crescent moon necklace exactly as Cecilia remembered. The sight gave her renewed strength. She couldn't fail. Not with Helen. Not with the memory of her sister. "I know what you did to Gabriella," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "And you won't do the same to me or Helen." Bianca rolled her eyes. "Melodramatic to the end. Gyro, just get it over with." The gardener advanced, his hands outstretched to grab Cecilia. At that moment, a noise from the hallway froze everyone in place. The main door had opened. "Bianca!" Henry's voice echoed through the hallway. "I'm home." Panic crossed Bianca's face. She hadn't expected him back so soon. With a quick gesture, she indicated for Gyro to leave. "Go through the back. Come back in an hour." As Gyro disappeared through the nursery's back door, Bianca adjusted her hair and clothes, composing an expression of pleasant surprise. "Stay here, and don't make a sound," she ordered Cecilia in a low voice. "If you try anything, I swear it will be the last thing you do." She went out into the hallway, closing the nursery door behind her. Cecilia could hear her syrupy voice greeting Henry, inventing some excuse for being awake at that hour. With her heart pounding, Cecilia knew she had only minutes before Bianca returned, possibly with Henry. She needed to act fast. Gently placing Helen in the crib, she rushed to the window, trying to open it. It was locked. The Manor's security system locked all windows after a certain hour. She looked around, desperate, searching for something she could use as a weapon, as a shield, as anything. Her gaze landed again on Gabriella's photograph. For a second it seemed her sister smiled directly at her, giving her courage. Determined, Cecilia grabbed her cell phone and sent a quick message to Theo. "Contact the police now, Albuquerque Manor. Attempted homicide in progress." Then she picked Helen up again and positioned herself facing the door, awaiting the inevitable confrontation. She wouldn't run anymore. It was time for the truth to come out. The minutes that followed seemed like an eternity for Cecilia. Helen had calmed in her arms, as if sensing her aunt's determination to protect her. From the hallway, muffled voices indicated that Bianca and Henry were talking in the main living room. "I won't let them hurt you," Cecilia whispered to her niece. The nursery door opened. Bianca entered first, followed by Henry, whose face transformed into a mask of shock. "What does this mean?" he exclaimed. "How did you get in here?" "Mr. Albuquerque," Cecilia kept her voice firm. "I know it looks like a break-in, but I needed to come back to protect Helen. Her life is in danger." Bianca let out a forced laugh. "See? She's completely unhinged." "Put my daughter back in the crib. Now." "Only after you listen to me," Cecilia insisted. "I have proof that Bianca is poisoning Helen." "That's absurd," exclaimed Bianca. "Henry, call security." Henry hesitated, his gaze alternating between the two women. "What proof?" "I noticed a strange odor in Helen's bottles since I arrived. When she started showing symptoms, I took a sample for analysis. The result confirmed there's a toxic substance in the milk." She gestured to her phone. "And I just caught her injecting something into a bottle." She pointed to the syringe partially hidden in Bianca's bathrobe. Henry focused on Bianca's sleeve. "What is that?" Bianca hid her hand. "Just vitamins the pediatrician prescribed." "There's more," Cecilia continued. "Your wife, Marianne. She was my sister." A stunning silence filled the room. "What?" Henry whispered. "Gabriella Oliveira, my sister who disappeared 10 years ago. Somehow she assumed a new identity as Marianne Costa." Cecilia pulled out the chain with the sun-shaped pendant. "This necklace, Marianne wore its complement, the crescent moon. We were inseparable as children." Henry's eyes widened. "The photo on the wall," Cecilia pointed out. "She's wearing the necklace there." Bianca changed tactics. "Even if that were true, it proves nothing about your accusations." "Explain this," Cecilia challenged, showing the laboratory report. "A toxic agent in the baby bottles, the same one found in this product." She pointed to a vial in the cabinet. Henry picked up the vial, his hands trembling. "Why would this be here?" "Henry, this is ridiculous," Bianca tried. "She's setting everything up." Bianca, seeing herself cornered, played her last card. Even if you believe her, Helen is legally my daughter." "What?" Henry turned sharply. "After Marianne's hospitalization, I handled the paperwork. Helen's birth certificate lists me as the biological mother due to an administrative error." "You forged official documents?" The doorbell echoed through the manor. A smile formed on Bianca's lips. "That must be Jaron. Perhaps it's time we ended this discussion. Permanently." Mrs. Zilda appeared at the door. "Mr. Henry, it's the police, and a young man named Theo." Bianca panicked. "Don't let them in." "Too late," Zilda replied. "I've already led them to the living room." "Let's go downstairs," Henry said. "It's time to sort this out." "No!" exclaimed Bianca, pushing Henry and rushing back to the nursery. Cecilia followed and found her leaning over the crib with the syringe. "Get away!" "From her!" Cecilia yelled. "Stay where you are," Bianca ordered, pointing the syringe at the baby. "One more step and it'll be her last." "Bianca, for heaven's sake," Henry pleaded. "Without Helen, everything would be perfect. I would be your only family, your only heir." She let out a bitter laugh. This child was always a reminder of her. "Put that syringe down," Henry demanded. The police were approaching. "It's over, Bianca," Cecilia said softly. Bianca lowered the syringe towards Helen. Cecilia lunged forward, grabbing her wrist. The two fell to the floor as Henry picked up Helen. "Drop your weapons," ordered the detective, bursting into the nursery. Bianca got up, cornered. "You don't understand. I did everything for us, Henry." "Drop the syringe," ordered the detective. Bianca tried to inject the contents into herself, but she was disarmed in time and apprehended. Theo hugged Cecilia. "Are you okay?" Everyone turned to Helen, strangely quiet in her father's arms. "She must have taken the poisoned bottle," Cecilia murmured. "Theo, the antidote." He prepared a dose that Cecilia administered. Seconds later, Helen opened her eyes. Cecilia hugged her niece, crying with relief. "She'll be fine," Theo assured. The investigations confirmed everything. The vials of poison, forged documents, and the safe with the altered birth certificate. Jaron confessed after being captured. In the manor's living room, lit by the morning light, Cecilia sat with Henry, who was holding Helen. "I still can't believe it," he said. "Gabriella, your sister, you have her same look." "I found more information," Theo revealed days later. Gabriella suffered amnesia after an accident, but was beginning to recover memories. He handed her an unsent letter. "Dear Cecilia," the letter read, "I dream of a girl wearing a necklace with the sun. My sister, you. I built a life as Marianne, but something is missing. When Helen was born, I swore I would tell her everything about her Aunt Cecilia. I hope we can meet again. With love, Gabriella." "She remembered," Cecilia whispered, emotional. 6 months later, in Central Park, the four formed a family under the blue sky. The Gabriella Oliveira Foundation now helped at-risk children. The manor had been sold, and they lived in an airy house near the park. "One day," Cecilia promised her niece, "I'll tell you all about your mother, how strong she was, how much she loved us, and how her heart found its way back home." The blue notebook rested at home, its last page containing only, "The milk of truth never sours."